Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Are you ready?
This live
Are you
talk.
ready?
Live
Are you
talk.
ready?
Yes, sir.
Are you ready?
All right, greetings and welcome to Live Talk. I am your host, Arthur Jeremiah, alongside my two co-hosts, Minister Samuel.
Hey, welcome back to Live Talk again.
And the spiritual ambassador, Yeket Zikia.
Peace. Good afternoon.
All right, so before we go to anything, let's go to our general statement and disclaimer.
General statement. Live Talk is proudly powered by TBS Goodwill, Builders of the Highway Foundation, and Men of Purpose. Together, we're bringing about awareness to the everyday challenges facing individuals, communities, and our nation. We tell our stories, listen to yours, and always respect different perspectives. Want to share your voice? Email us at livetalkorl@gmail.com to be a guest, or if you would like to contribute to our mission, purpose, go to livetalkorl.com to give a donation. Disclaimer. Information provided during this event and others to come does not constitute the official opinion of Live Talk or its affiliate entities. It is strongly recommended that viewers seek independent expert advice regarding any topics discussed, as legal requirements differ significantly across jurisdictions and are subject to frequent changes. If you have questions or concerns, you can always email us at livetalkorl@gmail.com, or you can DM us on Facebook and or Instagram at Live Talk Orlando.
All right, welcome back, my brothers. How you doing, Minister?
I'm doing great for a Sunday morning. Starting off a new week, so it's always a good thing.
Yes, sir. And Yeket Zikia, my brother, how you doing?
I'm doing marvelous. You know, as the brother said, it's starting off a new week, and so far it's been going terrific.
I tell you, it's a good thing to be in the Sunshine State, right?
Yes, yes, it is. Yeah, I love Florida. Love being here. Orlando, even better. It's okay for it to be cool a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's a blessing to be able to dress it.
Right. I tell you, man, being in the heat of this season, I'm talking about tax season, I'm still trying to sustain my sanity. But very blessed to be busy. So that's a great thing. All right, family. I hope you're doing well out there. We're just going to give you a rundown of the show today. First, we'll have the minister word of today. Right after that, we'll go to a commercial break. And we'll come back. Our main topic today is money, trauma, and Black wealth, how we break the financial cycle. And after that, we'll go to another commercial break, and we'll come back with some community news. I like to call this What's on Your Mind, Yeket Zikia. So we'll have our brother share something with us today, what's on his mind. And then we'll end with a motivational quote or reading from the host. So with no further ado, Minister, what is the word of today?
So in accordance with our topic, our word of the day will be wealth. Wealth. And wealth is and can be defined as an abundance of valuable material possessions or resources. Wealth, all property that has a monetary or exchangeable value. Wealth, the state of being rich, material prosperity. Plentiful supplies of a particular resource. Well-being, welfare. Some synonyms of wealth are assets, capital, fortune, money, riches, and prosperity. Then, of course, I must add my personal and favorite saying, which is your first wealth is your health.
Yes, sir. Indeed. Well, I appreciate and thank you for that word of today, my brother. And we're going to talk about that as we get into our conversation today. So we'll go to a commercial break and we'll come right back with our main topic.
At NOY Store, we bring culture, style, and wellness all in one place. Explore our collection of cultural apparel designed to inspire and connect. From t-shirts to polos, boldly tell your story. Need guidance on your journey? Check out our books written to inspire and support your spiritual, personal, and community growth. And give your body the care it deserves with our health and wellness products like natural toothpaste, soothing body butters, and more. We're always adding new products to empower your life so you can live with purpose and style. Visit NOYstore.com today, where culture, wellness, and inspiration come together. Shop at NOYstore.com.
We're going to war, y'all! I was screwed last tax season, but not this time. I got a pro to be my co-pilot. Scott & Associates Accounting ain't just there when the IRS comes knocking on your door. They do all the preparation work and the planning. That way my plane is fully fueled up and stocked with bullets.
Scott's firm is completely family-owned, so yeah, they treat your money like Christmas dinner. Seriously, dude, you never pay more than you have to.
Now let's say, God forbid, you do make a mistake during the year. These guys will help you get back on track faster than you can say back-to-back World War champs. Whether you're a small business or want your personal taxes done, they know the tax code like the back of their hand.
You'll never have to worry about getting lost in the IRS trenches when you have the allies on your side.
They do more than balance books. They empower entrepreneurs to make smart, confident financial decisions all year long.
All right. And at Scott & Associates, we do all of that. So feel free to reach out to us, 321-754-1360. That's 321-754-1360. All right.
I'm just add to that
Yes.
because you are in this season. I know it's a battle, but you're holding up well.
Yes, sir.
You're holding up well.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that. Encouragement. All right, family. So today we're talking about money. We always talk about money and how it associates with our community. Money is one of the most powerful things in our lives, but also one of the most uncomfortable topics in our community. Today, we're having a real conversation about money, the mistakes, the trauma, the lessons, and how we start building wealth differently. Because a lot of us weren't taught about money. We was taught how to survive without it. Isn't that something?
Mhm.
All right. So before we talk about wealth, let's talk a little bit about reality. And, I want to talk about what was our relationship with money growing up. Because I like to try to get personal to get the audience engaged, understanding, that we all been through this, this fight together. So, brothers, I want to be able to, share with the audience, like, what were some of the things that we did? What were some of the relationships we had with money coming up from a youth all the way up until we are, to the point where we are right now as being adult men? Which one of you brothers want to start off with that?
I'll tell you that. Well, growing up, it was more of the lack of money. Growing up in the hood, you never had enough of the resources that you needed to live comfortably. So, you grow up in being poor. So your understanding of money was, I was taught to get it, hoard it, and only spend it on things that was absolutely essential to your day-to-day survival. And with that mindset, it prepared me for later in life that a lot of the material trappings, the newest fades, newest fads that will come out, that put that on pause. Make sure you have enough money saved up to be able to live comfortably. So I was taught sacrifice the present in order to live comfortably in the future. And that concept has served me extremely well. Because again, you don't get caught up in spending money frivolously on every new trend that comes out every month. You know, they're gonna always be producing new pair of shoes, new designer outfits gonna always come out. New cars will always be available. But that doesn't mean that you have to have each new product that hits the shelf. So saving the money and using it, because you may never know, you need it in the future. You know, most successful people have what they call an emergency fund. When life throws curveballs at you, you have something to fall back on. But those early principles and precepts that was given about being able to save a certain portion of your money, and it came from, consequently, one of the black establishments in our communities, which is the church, you know, because they teach you to tithe. So the relationship it's a good working relationship.
Let me ask you this here, because you said something that was, I don't think a lot of people may have, you know, some of these lessons in their household, because you're talking about saving. Now, was you raised in a household, mother and father?
No.
And I taught these?
Single household with just a mother. And because of, again, the lack of resources we had, she taught you how to save that money so that you will be able to get the things that you need in the future. She made you understand that the present is only good for the moment, but when you're preparing for the future, that's your lifeline. So always look down the road instead of getting that instant gratification. Look what's going to serve you down the line.
Sound like a smart woman. Minister?
And I would say that I was fortunate because my relationship, as my mom and dad were together, he was old school. He was the provider. So the only things I remember him having dead on was the house and a car note. Other than that, he didn't believe in borrowing nothing. So he worked, but my mom, he would bring the money home, and my mom was a saver. And it taught me saving, because like he was really, if I don't want to hate you, he couldn't stand somebody who would steal. So he pushed that thing about working, but he did the saving. And I came from a big family. I was the youngest. So I saw it more so than even some of my older siblings. Of course, I started working early. When I was in junior high school, I was working, cutting grass to get my first job. And I saved. And I can remember my older siblings who were young adults, borrowing money from me when they needed things. And it taught me the importance of saving. So when I got older and made some mistakes, it was like easy to remember that how important it is to save versus spending. But that relationship, it really started early because I saw my mom. She was one that saved. He don't want to get he wasn't finna borrow nothing from no wife. That he gonna buy it, but she was a saver.
Okay. Well, hey man, y'all had some a little bit better guidance than I did. Because I was raised up in a household where my mom was on fixed income. So whatever came in, like it was already budgeted. So it's like, you like those $10 shoes, them MA100s, we got budgeted $10 for those shoes. You go down there and you get the $10 pair of shoes. So we was very limited. And I don't know how well she managed that because I wasn't taught, and you brothers probably can come back and piggyback off this here. I wasn't taught budget. I didn't know what money was actually coming in. Found out later, you know, as far as what that fixed income looked like. Because, you know, Christmas would miss us, you know, often. You know, Christmas and some of the holidays or holidays would miss us because of that. Because if she was getting a check on the 1st, then Christmas fall on the 25th. Oh, that check don't come until the 1st. It's gonna come every 1st. So we missing Christmas. So I don't know what we celebrate, but it ain't Christmas. but no, that was, you know, didn't have a father in the household. So just understanding wealth at a later time in my life, I think around 13, I would say. And this is just me now being in the streets because home ain't providing like it needs to. Mom needs some extra help. So now I'm in the streets, you know, and I told myself from that day on, being 13, man, and making money, that I'd never be broke again. Now, logically, in my head, yeah, I'm doing some things that I shouldn't be doing, but I know where I want to take myself at futuristically. I know eventually I want to stop and get into my own business, and I want to make some changes. I didn't know what that looked like at that time. I can only look at the adults that I seen, you know, and back then we seen a lot of adults, and you guys brothers can attest to this here, that was entrepreneurs. It was one gentleman, he, I forget his name, but he was a TV repair service guy. And every time the TV needed repair, he had a big shop with a bunch of TVs in there that he worked on and, you know, et cetera. But he ran his own business. So those type of things inspired me later on to say like, oh, I'm gonna make some money. I don't know where I'm gonna get the money from. And then I'm gonna run my own business. But that was kind of from the outside of my household, because in my household, I wasn't really taught that because I didn't know, you know, how, you know, initially at that time, how money was coming in. Like I said, I found out later on how money was coming in, but I knew every first, it was something coming in, and certain things will happen on that first because of my mother being on fixed income. But no, learning money at a very young age, I really didn't get the grasp of it until I, you know, got a little older and just understanding what money looks like. So definitely a different viewpoint. And I think, you know, in the Black communities, we have all these viewpoints when we talk about money and the money relationships, etc. All right. So just to follow up on that, just in case, unless you brothers had a question for me centered around that.
So you mentioned the money, then at what point did you start going after your own money?
So that's a great question, because I like I said, I understood that we was limited, or I would say we was at our peak as far as the income that was coming in. There was nobody else doing it. And she wasn't doing no, you know, selling like most people, handle ladies selling flips and, you know, different things to generate other income. None of that was happening. So when it was, I ain't gonna say presented to me, when I seen the opportunity to make more money, unfortunately, it was just in a way that wasn't in line with the law, if that makes sense. So that opportunity presented itself to me, and it seemed as if it was easy. So I took that opportunity, you know, and that's at that particular time, being a young Black male, making, you know, bringing in, I would say $1,000 a week, $1,500 a week.
Compared to minimum wage?
Man. And then I'm doing it on my own time. So it ain't like you know, on a clock and clocking in. I'm doing it on my own time. But it did lead to some other things, you know, juvenile detention center. So I'm letting you know. So if you're out there and you're doing it, you're listening to this show, it ain't all good and it ain't all gravy. People do certain things for a reason. We're talking about survival. We're gonna stay on that topic. So this is about survival. When you're in survival mode, understanding that certain things, your resources are limited, you tend to go to other things that can bring in more resources, a cash flow to help you, you know, stay engaged, like or connected with your peers in the community. So it's just something that, you know, we tend to attach to, especially without guidance. Because if you had a little guidance, it would help you. And not having guidance in my life at that time, only my mother, which would tell me to go to school. She only had a ninth grade education. So she couldn't really, you know, teach me about education and things of that nature. All she know, go to school, go to school, regardless of what the school may be teaching me, go to school. Because she knows she didn't go to school or didn't finish school because of the things that she had to do. So that's the challenge sometime in the Black community that we had to face, especially around that time, you know, survival. So it was all about survival at that time. Zeke, I know you was about to ask something. You had a question centered around that, or you want to have a comment?
Yeah, I was gonna add a comment. You know, especially back in the 80s, you know, once the crack epidemic hit, that put the whole community in survival mode. Because that changed the whole dynamics of the mass majority of Black households. You had a lot of the single mothers that, you know, fell victim to that particular chemical. And that put the house under a strain because the income that she did have was no longer available now because it went to support her habit. And that's what caused a lot of young children to get in the streets at an early age. And unfortunately, once we developed a taste for the streets, it was hard to let it go. So even when we got into a position to where we was no longer in survival mode, we hadn't got so accustomed to that right there that we felt this was the only path for us. And as you said, going down that path, eventually it leads to detention centers. It leads to prison sentences. So for the younger people that are out there that may be in survival mode, don't make a career out of it. Use it for the situation that at the time being, but have an exit plan and try to get one immediately, because you don't want to get caught up in a system that'll grind you down. And now for the rest of your life, it'll put you in a position to where a lot of doors are automatically closed to you because you are ex-con.
Oh, and that's real. Because like it goes be an example. It comes down to, because when you gotta have a money conversation, it comes down to needs and wants. And needs was even when I was younger. I came from a large family, so there was 7 of us. But you couldn't get all that you wanted. You get the basic needs, and then being younger, I would get hand-me-down. Or those were new shoes, but them sneakers, we called them bubbles.
Right.
All right. So that was okay in elementary. By the time you got to junior high school, I wanted them Converses or them Pro Kids. I had to work to get to those. But you're gonna go out and get money to get them one way or the other. And fast forward to then once I move out, now young adult, and I'm on my own, working for minimum wage, got to pay the rent, got to buy the grocery, got to keep the car going. It don't add up. And when I can make, like you say, I'm making more in a night on my time than I do all week with somebody breathing over my neck, back in them days, calling you what they want, and you got to take that for minimum wage. It's really easy to go for 3 or 4 hours and make more money in a few hours than you make a week. But like my brother said, you got to have an extra strategy and know, I can't do this, because if you get caught up, it'll change your whole trajectory. Understanding that you do have needs, because you gonna find a way to eat one way or the other.
Right.
But you got to be able to look at, this something I want to do long term. Is this maintainable for the future when you see how many keep getting picked off? So it's like, and that's where that conversation about money and understanding it, because I saw it, but the conversation about money really didn't hit until I was an adult and had to do it on my own. I saw the saving, but you don't understand it until you get hungry.
No, that's true. And that kind of goes into the next question when we talk about, when did we realize, you needed to look at, learn how money kind of operates in your life differently. Because like at that particular time, it was all about just being able to have the things that I needed at that time, or things that I wanted at that particular time. And it felt good. But as I got older and still just being in the streets and the game, I understood at that time, I have to start looking at money differently. How now can I put this money away, or what can I do with this money to make my life more productive? So it wasn't all about, I want to stay on this journey of just, being in the streets. How can I now take what I have? Because we know in our community, and we're going to talk about this here, getting capital it's hard to get capital to start a business. So in my head, I say, man, if I can get the capital to start a business, this is great. So the whole thing was about, I'm going to take this money and I'm going to start my own business. And I always look back, and I'm probably sure I said this on the show before, just identifying that TV repair, that gentleman there. I just feel like he just had a great business and a great model. And it really inspired me, because I thought about opening up a TV repair, VCR repair, some of the devices that we was dealing with at that time. I said, man, I'm gonna open up my own shop, because I'm good with my hands, hands on. So my whole thing was, man, I'm gonna take this money and I'm gonna open up my own shop. So I even went back to school, ITT Tech, and they was teaching about electronics and things of that nature. You put together you create, put Sam, you know all about this, and you're an electrician, you're in the
circuit boards.
Yeah. So like, and then the frequencies of the radio, I said, man, this is very neat. But I wasn't able to finish that because I was still have one foot in, one foot out. So it was like, that's when I really got myself in a trap, and everything else was history as far as what transpired after that, and not being able to finish that. But just understanding, what we were talking about. When did you first realize you needed to learn money different? Because I realized it, but it was almost too late at that time. I mean, now I'm looking at it differently later on in my life. But when did you brothers realize that you needed to start looking at money different?
I realized that in my late teens. Once I was preparing myself to go to college, I went to realizing, the money it was going to take to live in college. Even though I had a full scholarship, I was still looking at the money that I needed to make and needed to understand, because you look at the dynamics, because you start meeting people in different walks of life and you see how they live it. And you like, okay, this is a lifestyle that I want. These people owning their homes, got all these exotic cars, and you figuring, how can you get that? And they, you sit down and you speak with some of these people, and they tell you different methodologies that they use to get the wealth that they had. So that created a mindset shift to, hey, I got to start doing what I was doing that would keep me right at or below the poverty line and start doing what these successful people are doing that have the things that I want. So for me, it was exposure to people outside of my normal communities and being able to sit in dialogue with them concerning the different avenues that they use to become extremely successful. Because, you know, we all grow up dreaming that, okay, we want the houses. You know, back in our days, we had that show Lifestyle of the Rich and Famous. So we wanted that lifestyle, but we had no idea what it would take to acquire that besides either, you know, being in the streets or being some type of athlete or entertainer. And that created a way of thinking in me that, okay, I got to begin to do some of the things that they're doing. You know, in our communities, we know nothing about investing. We know nothing about the stock market. We see these things, but we have no idea of how they work. But the wealthy, they understand these precepts that govern that right there. And, you know, they either go to school, they watch videos, they learn about it. So that shift was, I have to learn about these things because the stats show nobody has ever become rich in America working a 9 to 5. But the mass majority of people in America work a 9 to 5. So that created a change in my thought process that, okay, if I can't become a professional athlete, then what am I going to do to get this lifestyle of the rich and famous? I can't work my way there because the stats show that's almost impossible. So you have to start learning other ways to get money. And once I started learning that right there, that's what created the total turnaround in how I view money and the way it needed to be used in order to get the life that I wanted. So it was in my late teens, my high school years, that I seen the shift in myself and my viewpoint toward money.
Minister?
Yeah, and I want to say it was that same. I remember going to college, and most of us, like fresh out of high school, I was at a technical school, but there was two brothers that I met through that journey, but they were both older, 25 to 30. And I can remember one of them. Most of us were high school kids, first time out on our own. So you have these dreams and hopes, but reality set in to where you go graduate, you got to look for a job. But one of the brothers already at that time, because it was in electronics, he actually worked at Honeywell. And we were taught we got cool, but he was there because he wanted to move up. He was already in a position. And then that was going to move him farther within it because he wasn't going to get out of school looking for a job. He already had a job. He was looking to move up. Other brother was very entrepreneurial. And it's funny that you talk about the televisions because they did a part of that quarter semester when they talked about at that time the vacuum tubes and oscilloscopes. He went through that part. And before he graduated, like the month after he did it, he opened up a TV repair shop and started running the TV business while he was still in school. Hired one of the guys in the class that was like a brainiac to work for him fixing televisions because he could see the vision. But see, he was older and he understood money. And it helped me begin to see that, okay, you got to have not just a skill, but you got to have a trade or you got to have somewhere to be able to take that. Because most of the kids graduate and just, you can all get a resume, but you look just like everybody else out there. What is it going to make you stand out? What is it going to make you different if you don't have a plan? And then, of course, a little later and around that merger is when I did meet the most honorable Yahweh ben Yahweh. Learned about paying God and paying myself first. and then that principle of the talent, uh, multiplying the talent. And then I'm one that I can be very honest, even though I was taught it in the past, I touched it. You can never replace that when you touch it, but that don't mean you can't continue to build on it. And then the understanding of not touching it don't mean letting it sit, but that mean also being able how to make it multiply. You have to, like the brother said, wealthy people allow their money to work for them. You'll never get rich working on a job. You can be comfortable, you can pay the bills, but you're not gonna be wealthy. You're not gonna be free until you learn to let money work for you. And that's a skill that other nations and wealthy people teach their children in their communities. And we that need to be taught to our children in our community. And we're just now beginning to talk about it with our children, but I don't think we actually teach it, not like others, like that's taught as a lifestyle rather than like some foreign concept.
I mean, to your point, just thinking back, and I believe even for myself, is when transitioning from the tomb, just being in the middle of that transition and just understanding what I did out on the streets, I can do. I mean, the legal things that I did on the streets, I can do legally. How successful I was out there, I can be just as successful in society. I just have to change my mindset. Like you said, sometimes there are certain things that allow that change to happen. Coming into tune with the most honorable Yahweh Yahweh was one of those things, like what you mentioned. And in my opinion, he taught me how to be wealthy. He gave us the concept of attaining wealth and being wealthy. Paying Yahweh and paying yourself first. So that was a game changer. I mean, it was a game changer. It allowed me to see money differently because now the money that I have, I can make work for me. I can put it through, like the scriptures say, the exchanges, and when you look that up, you'll see that it's talking about, the stock market or things that can, multiply your money, or whether it's the real estate or whatever it may be. But when you come into knowledge like that, you have no choice but to change. And you have to look at money differently, just from that angle there. But like to my brother, what my brother said was a lot of them already had an idea of what that looks like as far as because they built this system. They put this system in place. So of course they're going to benefit from the system that they put in place. But sometimes it takes us a little longer to get there unless we have someone that's within our community, within our culture, that can give that freely. And the most honorable Yahweh gave that freely. So that was definitely something that allowed me to see money differently. And as we was talking on this here, but we're gonna pivot a little bit. But we're talking personally. We're gonna get a little bit more ingrained in our community. What some of the personal things we experience is connected to a larger, story in the black community, because we all kind of deal with this here to a certain degree. That survival mode, that is. Nowadays, it might be a little different, but we got our grandchildren, our children that may benefit from other things. But why do we think money conversations in our community are uncomfortable? I think you alluded a little bit to that. You want to expound a little bit more on it?
Because unfortunately, in our community, there's normally a lack of, in most cases, there was a lack of it. And it's an uncomfortable conversation. And we don't want to be honest. Like people can be working, but if you just paying the bills and you just making it, then money is not a tool, it become a necessity. So you don't really want to talk about the lack thereof. Or the other side of that is if you do have it and we doing things that aren't above board, you don't want to talk about that either because that's another uncomfortable conversation. Whereas if you came from, like, let's say you were from a family that, like most of us didn't have the opportunity when we graduated high school, that we had X amount of dollars passed on to us, or we weren't given properties that were bringing us income that we didn't have to work for.
Right. Passive.
We didn't see that. So we didn't have those conversations. And like somebody said, the church taught us hated tithe, but it never taught us about paying ourselves and being within our own community. So we unfortunately paid it to everyone else without realizing we bringing a whole lot of money in, but we never capture any of it. So imagine if we was to capture a percentage of all that money going out and keep it within, that's where we will build a wealth. But the society that we came in, we were taught to spend all of it and keep none of it. So the conversation around money becomes not how much can you keep or build, only about how much you can spend, be it consciously or unconsciously, is what unfortunately was taught or not taught in our community.
So you can see, is there a shame factor when it comes to finances? The reason why?
Definitely a shame factor, because as a parent, when you have a lack of resources, you want your children to go further than what you at. But when you can't provide that, then yes, you feel shame. You feel that you're not living up to your purpose. Therefore, it's hard to sit down and have a conversation about money. One, because you don't have the knowledge of money. You see money, you know how to spend money, but as a book say, any fool can spend money. We also met that right there. And that's why we in the financial condition we are as a people, because we have a spend first mindset. So the parents can't teach or pass down wisdom that they lack themselves. And because most women are single mothers, they don't have the time to go out and learn the flow of finances. They don't have the opportunities to go to school, to read the books, because most of these women be teenagers themselves when they have their children. So they don't have the wherewithal to be able to learn this wisdom to pass it on. So they just content with, okay, the little basic money that I do have, somewhat or another, they may or may not even know how to budget that. So they don't know how to sit down and teach their children, okay, let's learn how to budget your money so you can see where it's going. Now you can start building wealth at a young age. They don't teach them, hey, listen, pay the church, because most of them do go to church. Pay yourself. As you said, the precept that the Milba Yahweh taught was paying yourself also, because you the one that's working. The government gets paid from you working right out the gate. They take their tax money right out. So you have to pay yourself also and put that up and store it up, just like the animals do. During the summertime, they take a portion of the food that they get and they store it up, because they understand when the wintertime comes and the plants are not producing the fruits or the nuts or the food that they eat in abundance like that, they have something to fall back on. So we don't teach that concept to our children because we don't have nothing to fall back on. We live in check to check. So I can't really teach you that right there, because I can't model that particular behavior for you. So there is the shame factor that comes with that. That man, I want better for my children, but I'm not in a position to give them better. And the shame factor today is we live in the information age. So even if you didn't have that wisdom, it's nothing to have at a touch of the button to be able to get that wisdom. You can go and look at videos that'll teach you basic finances. You can read books on this right here online because everybody keep their phone with them at all times. So you got access to the wisdom now. You just lack the discipline to take the time out your day to go get it, to better yourself, as well as now you can pour that into the next generation, which is your children, and put them in a better position financially, because now they have the wisdom growing up to be able to know how to save the money, how to spend the money on needs and not wants, how to invest the money, where to invest the money. They can try to keep up with the flow of the economy because it's going to affect their money. And everybody's seeing that at our present moment with the gas prices. You're seeing how the gas is skyrocketing. How is that affecting you now? Because you may be pouring another $10 to $30 into your tank a week now, meaning that that $10 or $30 is being taken from somewhere else. So if you don't have a budget for your money, now your money is going to go even faster because you need to have gas just for everyday living. So it's a true shame and tragedy today for families not to have a working understanding of money as they sit down and teach it to their children. So yes, I think the parents do have much, much shame, as they should, because of the day and age that you live in. It shouldn't be an issue about being able to gather that type of knowledge to better yourself as well as your household.
I agree, because when it comes to having those conversations, sometimes what can make it uncomfortable, sometimes it can be our habits. You know, if you're bringing in enough money to meet your means, and somewhere you're off, it's like, where you off at? You know, I always hear the conversations around, man, they make this amount of money, they rent is only this amount of money. What are they doing with all their money? Habits. A lot of times we have habits that we don't understand how much we spend on those habits a year. So if you're you know, an alcoholic, if you a lot of us, this generation, you know, they I won't say old school. That's old school reefer, right? That's an old school. What's the
That's
the new school
Zaza.
term?
what's the
Zaza. That's
uh-oh.
thing.
Oh, that's
They
the
call
thing.
it Zaza. Okay.
But if you're doing that, you need to have a budget for it. But
Your
see,
dispensary. You need a budget.
right, because this is the thing. We go about life, we just living. We just living. We get, like we said, you get money, you're surviving. You getting money, you pay your rent or your mortgage or whatever you're paying, and then you do whatever things that you do. But see, what we don't plan for, and I think one of you brothers alluded to, is emergencies. So having some of those uncomfortable, because it can be a husband and wife. I don't want to talk about finances because I know my habits and what I do on a personal side, right?
Yep.
I'm doing all this here. I can contribute more. I'm gonna take away from my habits over here. But my habits are not my priority. Those are things that align with, you know, whatever I like and want to do. That's uncomfortable. But it's also shameful because I shouldn't be doing this here. And if I'm in a household, husband and wife, and we have children, how can I raise my children properly, understanding that I got some things that I have to overcome? So definitely we can be talking about uncomfortable situations, but also having shame, understanding that I need to take a look in the mirror and I need to change my ways in order for us to be a more productive family and put things in the proper perspective as it should be. So now if we're renting a apartment or what have you, and we know we want to own a home, we need to be saving that money up for the home. So those habits where I'm spending $100 a month, or $200, $150 a month, that need to come over here and go into this pot here so we can save up to get this home for our family. I think that's something that this society, and maybe, I growing up, we may have dealt with this too, because I would say my mother, and I'm not ashamed to say it, she was an alcoholic. So there was some habits there that took place. I don't know how much more we would have had if she didn't contribute to that, but I just know there was a habit there, that she contributed to. When it comes to, because we're talking about money, which is a lacking sometimes coming into the household. So oftentimes we have to reach beyond that, go and get some credit.
Mhm.
So and then we uneducated, like brother said, like if the mother in the household, we're talking about wealth or money, credit is a whole nother level of a conversation that we're going to be talking about. Yes, we can get that help. It's going to accomplish what needs to be accomplished at this moment. But then that's debt though. So how do now we pay this off, understanding that we have a lack of money already coming into the household? So then now is credit and debt something that we should be talking about? And why do many families avoid that? And I know we can probably go back to saying some of the same thing, but we do have to talk about credit and debt.
Go get another one.
Go get another one. Go and get another one.
Because that's short-term gratification, but it's got long-term consequences. And see, like the word of the day was wealth, but something I was reading on, and we have to, part of that conversation needs to be there's other forms of wealth: time wealth, social wealth, mental wealth, physical as well as the financial.
Mm.
And that's a whole conversation, because if you start to look at doing things you're spending money on things because you put a value on them, but they're pulling from the finances. So now mental health is an important thing, but the example is socially, your perfect example. If you're drinking and now you're becoming alcoholic, or if you go into the dispensary because of lifestyle that's pulling from your financial wealth, you have to understand that are these other things that I'm doing, these mental and these physical or these social things, pulling from my finances. And like you're saying, we don't want to have that conversation. That's an uncomfortable conversation, because you might be making some money, but you're spending it on things outside of the home. So the husband don't want to talk about it, or the wife don't want to talk about it, or the girlfriend or the boyfriend, they don't want to talk about it, even though it's being done. Like that extra $150 goes a long way. But if you don't have that that uncomfortable conversation, and see, that's where you have to be able to have a comfortable conversation about the finances and the whole realm, because it affects long term. And it's easier, especially younger people now. You have to be very careful, because if you're younger, it's easy to get credit, which means it's easy to get debt. Now, credit is a good thing if you use it properly. The credit is a horrible thing if you don't manage it. Like paying them, like we need to have that conversation with our youth about credit cards, because a lot of young kids, especially if they go to college, during college, when they get out, they will give them a credit card like that.
Right.
And it's easy to get to it. And now you got a $2,000 limit or $5,000. And if you're not careful, you don't generate it $10,000 worth of debt. And the credit card company say you can pay them a minimum, only $60, and I can keep on spending. If you're not conscious that it's going to take you forever and a day to pay that off, but it's easy to get into that, and then you're a year into a relationship, and both of you got a whole lot of debt, But because of the lifestyle and the things, you don't want to talk about it until you at their limit.
Right.
And now it becomes a mountain. That's an uncomfortable conversation, but it needs to be had on the front end rather than the back end.
And that goes back to, especially if you're about to get married, consultation. That need to be a main topic of that conversation. Ezekiel.
Well, we have to understand the purpose of credit. That's first and foremost. If we lack that understanding, then we can understand why the stats show that the average American is in debt. Because when you get these credit cards, which allows you to eliminate your present problem, however, it puts you on a path of a future problem. And most of these credit cards start off at 20% APR or better. So, and most of us don't understand how interest occurs on a daily basis from these credit cards. So all we looking at is, I can buy this particular product right now, this instant, with this credit card. And then I know I got 20 or 30 days to pay it off whenever your next due date is due. And if we accumulate this over a period of time, as the brother said, now you're only paying the basic minimum of that card, which allowing the interest to continue to run up. The credit card companies love for you to pay only the basic minimum. That's why they give you that minimum, because they know that they're going to skyrocket the interest daily because of that, as opposed you was paying 2 or 3 times what the minimum balance is. So credit, as said, it can be used, there's a thing as good debt and bad debt. But unfortunately, we're in the bad debt. We're not using credit to buy assets to continue building our wealth. We're using credit to get us out of the immediate debt, which presents us with future debt. And that cycle continues on its axis because of our spending habits. And our habits, we know, are those actions that have become so acquired and accustomed to us that is done involuntarily. Most of us are not aware of the things that we do. We just been doing it for so long, we're acting on like animals' instinct now. And if somebody was to ask us, hey man, why do you do this right here? Why do you do that? You couldn't answer. You just know you do it because you don't think about it. You're unaware of the action in itself, again, because of the time that you have been doing it. So when we're dealing with this credit right here, we have to sit down and teach our children that, yes, credit cards can bring instant relief, but if not properly managed, it can bring a lifetime of grief because it's going to keep you in a debt. And when you're in debt, the first thing as you become an adult and you're trying to live out on your own, that any apartment complex, any house, they're going to look at your credit because your credit is a report to them of your character, of the type of habits that you have. So if your credit cards are all maxed out or nearly maxed out, or you way above the utilization rate on that right there, then they're going to say you have bad credit, meaning that you don't properly spend your money. As you said, you may make more than enough money, but because of the different avenues that you spend that money on, it causes you to have to go and get a credit card. So parents have to sit down with their children and explain to them that, hey, credit can be for emergencies only. This is not something you do just because those new J6s just came out. You have to use that very wisely because if not, it can be a trap that you can become so intertwined in that it's going to be years and years before you can extract yourself from it. And in the meantime, opportunities may come to get a house that you want or a car that you want, or to get in a better apartment to live in, but you can't because your credit is bad. That's the number one problem among young people. They have horrible credit. And it's because they wasn't taught the purpose of credit cards. Our communities think when one card maxed out, let me go apply for another one. You look at today, these credit companies are preying on your lack of knowledge of that. That's why they study shooting prepaid or pre-approved cards to you in the mail on a regular basis, hoping that you get it. You ain't paying attention to the APR on these cards. You just know that I can be able to spend that money right then. And before you look up in it, you $20,000, $30,000 in credit card debt. Now you got other companies telling you that, hey man, we can help you get out of the credit card debt. We can help you get away from this right here. And again, you lack knowledge. That's our problem. As Hosea 4:6 say, my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. Knowledge by denotation is facts and information. We don't acquire the facts and information on how these credit cards operate. So therefore, we get into that mountain of debt. And now it seems hopeless in getting out of it. And it's keeping us down. It's a burden. It's stressing us out, which now affecting our health, which means now we're missing days of work. Now the money is even less. And with that right there, now you have the younger generation saying, okay, I don't want to go to school with these clothes on because I'm getting picked at. I'm getting talked about. I'm getting laughed at. So now, as like most of us did at a young age, we try to go out in the streets and get that money. But again, we don't know how to manage it correctly. Look at most of our athletes. Within 4 or 5 years of retirement, these young men and women be broke. They ran through millions because you gave them the money without the knowledge of how the money operates and how the money works. So they just splurge it. You getting these teenagers and young men that getting all this money and they just hanging out with it, thinking it's gonna last forever. And it doesn't. So if we don't teach about credit, then the banks will continue to own the tallest buildings downtown. The credit bureaus and credit card companies will continue to stay in business. So it's definitely a conversation that needs to be had. But again, it falls back to I can't give you what I don't have. So if I don't know how these credit cards work, I can't teach you. And that's the sad part about the parenthood. They lack that wisdom to be able to pass on to the next generation. So the next generation is getting further and further behind. So if the children are our future, and we're looking at the children of America at this day and age, then it's no wonder at the rate that we're going, America is going to be a third world country in no time.
I'm getting notice that we have to wrap this part up, but I just want to come back on that because we're talking about credit card and how the youth seek to capitalize from it, right? So is this the new form of survival mode? You know, because we didn't have access to credit, you know, when we was coming up like this here. And if you're a young person and you're saying, you know, you can get $10,000, you know, all you have to do is apply for this credit card. Most likely I'm gonna apply for this credit card. I'm in college. I don't have any money. Is this a new form of survival mode?
Modern day slavery, because see your point as well. Old school, the reason we had, like my mom and them taught us to say, because we didn't have access to credit like that. They wouldn't give it to us like that back then. It was for them. But now they realize it's a whole bunch of them. We can use it, capitalize, because they looking at the long game. They making good money. Something that the brother said was really important I wanted to touch on was they get this debt, and now when you have to deal with it, other part of that is that causes stress. He mentioned the stress. And then how do you deal with stress? Drinking, smoking, and drugs. That plays a whole, so now you're taking more resources away to deal with the stress that you got brought on by this debt. And that's a very uncomfortable conversation. So now it starts to affect your physical health, which now you go be missing work or you're going to have medical issues or bills. And it's a cumulative effect, all from a knowledge of education, money, and wealth.
And another point he had made, that's to touch on that, was not only getting an apartment, but even getting a job, they check your credit now.
Yep.
So if you ain't got good credit, you may not get that employment as well. So we do need to be conscious of that. And if we have children, I mean, just educate yourself a little bit more around credit so that now you can teach your children or your nephews or your grandchildren, etc., the importance of credit so that now they can live a more, I would say, sustainable, healthier life due to that. All right, so I think we have to wrap this part of the program up. We're going to go to a commercial break, and we'll come back and we're going to shift gears just a little bit. We're going to see what's on our brother Ike Ezekiel mind.
What do all these people have in common besides a beautiful smile, healthy teeth, and gums? They all use Zadi toothpaste. Zadi toothpaste is made with all natural ingredients. Zadi toothpaste is fortified with moringa and baking soda. Zadi toothpaste is suds-free, making it an excellent choice for kids. All natural, fortified, and suds-free. Get yours today at noystore.com.
Because Scott & Associates always treats me like family, I refer my family to them. So when preparing for my taxes and I know exactly what to bring in coming in, it makes the process so much easier. Anyone should hire Scott & Associates because they are professional, respectful, and very knowledgeable. And with all of my heart, I can always count on them.
All right, so we're shifting gears a little bit. Ike Ezekiel, what's on your mind, my brother?
Well, one of the things on my mind that I've been noticing about the younger generation is they lack routines. And we've been speaking about our habits. And as I said, habits are actions that's repeated to where it becomes involuntarily. We look at the youth that play sports. They have what they call practice. So when they're practicing, they're honing that particular skill. They're trying to perfect that particular skill set. So in our day-to-day living, what routines have we produced that will get us the wealth that we want? When we wake up, what is our morning routine? When we go to bed at night, do we have a morning routine? Because you look at any successful business, one of the things that they do is they track the money. They pay attention. Every time you go buy a product, they give you what is called a receipt so that you can see where your money is going. Your bank gives you a monthly statement so you can see where your money has went. So what routine are you setting up that would allow you to reach your financial goals? When you wake up in the morning, what are you doing that will help you reach that goal? What 2 or 3 things do you accomplish throughout every day that brings you closer to your financial goals? And all that is encompassed about how do you create a routine for yourself? Do you get up? Do you spend 10 minutes watching some type of wealth coach? Do you read some type of wealth book? Do you meditate for 5 or 10 minutes on what you read or what you watch? Do you write down the 1 or 2 things you want to accomplish this particular day concerning your wealth? So what kind of structure do you have? Remember, we talked about creating a system that will produce an outcome. And we said that every avenue of life has a system. Your body has a nervous, digestive, reproductive system. You have the educational system. You have the finance systems. Everything is a system. So what system do you have in place in your house that will bring about the financial freedom that you have? And the problem is most of us don't have a system. We don't have an everyday routine. Even if I wanted to lose weight, for example, you have a routine. You go to the gym, you do certain exercises 3, 4, 5 times a week. You eat a certain way that will help you reach your goal. The goal is great, but what are the intentional steps that's going to eventually lead to the goal? So everybody wants wealth. Everybody speaks wealth. Nobody likes being poor, but they don't have a routine in place that would allow them to move from poverty to riches. And without that right there, you're going to be 10, 20, 30 years down the line, either in the same place or worse because of the credit debt that you incurring. So my advice is, why don't people create a routine for themselves to get better? Because most of us watch sports, and sports have a structured routine during practice to make them better. I wanted to learn the piano, they're going to have a routine of me learning the different keys on there so that I can become a virtuoso at playing the piano or any instrument. Why don't we have that same concept concerning our finances? Because that's the only way we're going to move from where we are right now to where we want to be in the days and weeks and years to come financially. So, people, we need to create a routine, produce that system. Don't wait on somebody else to do it. That is your sole responsibility as the individual and as a unit within your household. So get a routine. Get you a time frame. I'm gonna spend 5 minutes doing this, 10 minutes doing that, and stick to it till it becomes a positive habit. Once you get that down and it becomes a habit because you did it day in and day out, then you ain't got to worry about it. You'll continue to do it because now your brain and your body then became accustomed to doing this right here. So even when motivation wanes and you don't feel like it, your body gonna say, this is who we are. This is what we do. So get up. It's time. Pick up that book. This is what we do. Watch that video. This is what we do. This is who we are. And as we know, as you think of, that's who you are. So think of a system that'll put you in a position on a day-to-day basis that will allow you the financial freedom that you seek.
Oh, beautiful, my brother. I tell you, that all deals with discipline. You know, living in this society and age, because these phones are at our fingertips, and you got TikTok and you got Instagram and you got everything else that can take hours away from you, when you can be picking up a book and doing some of the things my brother's sharing with us right now. That's what causes us to stay in our condition. But those things, those habits, like what my brother's saying, is we develop bad habits and we condition with these habits. And then as you were speaking, my brother, I was thinking about a ritual. You know, when you think about a certain ritual, like we are religious people. Yep. If you can take that, what my brother is sharing, and begin to apply that to your life as a ritual, as something that you do on a normal basis, when you get up in the morning, before you turn on all the noise, you know, in tune with yourself, spiritualize yourself going into this day, understanding, you know, that there's a motivational, you know, spiritual call to your life, and walk through this day with purpose, understanding that you're here for a reason. I mean, that's so beautiful. That's I mean, if you can't receive that, you can't receive anything. I just, you know, and I can keep going on with that because my brother said so much, and I think the audience, somebody needs to hear that, because I always tell people when it comes to changing, because I'll hear, even my daughter will call me and say, how do I do this here? I say, you got to change your circle and the people around you. So if you want to be healthy, be around some healthy people. If you want to be rich, start connecting with some people that have money, that have something. So changing your environment is very important. That's going to allow for you to then now start develop some of these positive habits that my brother is talking about. Minister?
Oh, I totally agree. That's, we know we have bad habits. Create good habits. And when you create a good habit, it works. Just like bad habits are distracting, good habits are beneficial. Plano, it's like that's a win-win situation.
Yes. Well, I mean, that's more than enough to leave our audience. So I'll start from the top. We'll get ready to close out. In the last word, my brother Ezekiel, start from you, sir.
Yes, make sure that you put yourself in a position to get wealth, and that you also have no problem passing that wisdom on to future generations.
Yeah, this is the time for us to break that cycle of trauma and make it a positive impact when it comes to money and finance.
Yes, sir. And I'm gonna go off a little bit what you said, my brother. This week, learn one thing about money, whether it's credit, saving, or investing, and share it with somebody else. I'm gonna say it again. Share it with somebody else, especially in our community, because we lack it. And I say from the host, peace and prosperity, and from Live Talk, we are out.
Thank you for watching Live Talk. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Live Talk Orlando. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit on the notification button so that you can see more videos like this. You want to join the show? Email us at livetalkorl@gmail.com. You can also follow the host on Facebook and Instagram at Arthur Jeremiah. And visit the website, thenoystore.com, to pick up your copy of The Spiritual Significance of a Name.